You're good.
Sorry, I was just intentionally.
I don't know what you're doing.
I believe we're good. Okay. We're going to call to order the Torrington Public Schools Board of Education regular meeting for Wednesday, September 16th at 6:06. Start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Mr. Capabianca, second translation, here as soon as she can. Mr. Hinman.
Here.
Mrs. Luna, here. Mr. Kisco.
Here.
Mr. Knight. Here. Mr. Lemoyne.
Here.
Mr. Nergy.
Present.
Ms. Richardson. Here. Mr. Tebow.
Here.
Mr. Traub.
Here.
Mayor Carpenter is not here. Mr. Becerra. Here. Mr. Campbell. Here. Ms. LaChance. Here. Ms. Lebowski. Here. Mr. Potter. Not here. Ms. Reitman. Here.
Thank you. Public participation. The board invites members of the community to speak on topics to be addressed in the agenda or on other topics of interest. Individuals wishing to speak are requested to fill out the speaker sign-up sheet, which is currently on its way up here. You can skip the rest of it. There's nobody on the list. The abridged version. Okay, I need a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Dan? Second by Jim. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? We're unanimous. Okay, informational sharing. We're going for a walk.
We're going for a walk. We are doing that. We're going for a walk.
Good plans. For you.
All right.
This is one of my favorite parts of any meeting, is we get to recognize excellence in our school district and our Teachers of the Year for our individual schools, and then also our district-wide Teacher of the Year. And first is Jordan Jones, a third grade teacher from East. She grew up in Torrington, and from what I understand is always giving back to her community. Jordan? Okay, second is Heather Rossini, who is a first grade teacher at Vogel Wetmore. She's been with Torrington Public Schools for 13 years. And what I've heard is that she spends a lot of her time when she's not in the classroom making sure that the bonds between the school and the community are always strong. So thank you so much. Okay, the last one who's here is Angela Calabrese, who is a teacher at TMS. Not only a teacher, but a graduate, I understand, of TMS, so thank you for sticking with us. Busy in community affairs. He also coaches girls soccer. God bless you, I have one of those, so God bless you for that. And organizes a lot of fundraisers. He is not only a Teacher of the Year at TMS, but he's also our District Teacher of the Year. Thank you. Thank you so much. And some folks that couldn't be with us tonight, but I also want to make sure that we recognize them. One is Sarah Coolidge, who is a library media specialist at Southwest, and I know that she's been helping Sue out a lot this week. She's the go-to person for all things related to educational technology. We really appreciate all her service. So congratulations to Sarah. Kate Shaggy, 4th grade at Torringford, 21-year veteran of TPS. Thank you so, so much. And she's also very busy with community involvement. So we really appreciate those of you who give of your time, not only in classroom, but take the extra time to give back to the community. Thank you. And Amy Rice, who is a 4th grade teacher at Forbes, And she's been with us for a very short time, a couple of years, but already I understand that she has made an incredible impact in not only her classroom, but taking leadership roles within the school. So thank you to Amy as well. Congratulations to all of our teachers of the year.
Back to you again. District performance report.
Okay. We have the district performance report, which is focusing primarily on the results of the SBAC testing. In the packet that you have, we provided some information on the data tables, what the information needs, so that if you have any questions about what some of these numbers mean, you have that glossary to help you. The second page, which is actually page 3 in the packet, is the state achievement results for SBAC. So it gives you all of the state levels. And on page 5 is the results, the average results from our own DRG. So as you can see, in grades 3, 4, and 5 in ELA, we're up there. We're 6, 1, and 3 out of 15 in our DIRG. Math is not quite as impressive. However, we believe that in large part that has to do with the fact that we have more literacy specialists in our elementary schools than we have numeracy, and that that's showing in some of our scores. In grades 6, 7, and 8, we're seeing not quite the results we would like to, but we just started with some interventionists there. And the scores that you see in grade 11, I think, do reflect that we don't currently have RTI support in the secondary school at the grade, at the high school level, excuse me. Another thing that is worth looking at, if you look at each of the schools individually, you can see that we are having some issues with, for example, our ELL population, free and reduced lunch population. Those are kids who struggle already, and we know that we need to get some more supports there, and so our results there and those demographics are not where we would like them to be. The last thing that you have in the packet related to SBAC is, the opt-outs, and that had quite an impact in that, especially if you look at THS, and having been at THS last year, I can not only speak to the numbers, but anecdotally as to why the numbers are what they are. 22 students opted out. That's 10% of our population in grade 11. So 10% of our kids opted out. And the children who tended to opt out were those who were taking AP exams during the same basic time period, who were taking SATs during the same time period. Those students opted out of the test, and they would be more likely, I believe, to have scored in the meets or exceeds expectation categories, and we didn't get the benefit of having those student scores reflected in our scores. So I believe the opt-outs did have an impact. And also anecdotally, I know that having been in those classes, I was an administrator with Ms. Gallulo last year, I know that students who did come to the school and did opt to take the test did not always do their best. I had one young man who basically said in his essay, "This is a dumb test," and left the room. There's nothing as a proctor could do about that, but that was his test involvement as far as that goes. So I know that there are other stories anecdotally that a lot of folks who were watching could say. It was not, because of the timing of the high school and all the other tests that kids had to take, that did happen more often than I would have liked. That information was relayed to the state, and as a result, the SBAC will not be given to grade 11. They're looking at a different test, or using the SAT possibly, which is a test they're already taking. So, again, these are scores that we plan to take a look at, particularly we're not going to get a chance, I don't think we're going to get a chance to look at them again at the high school, but we will be using them at the elementary level and at the middle school level to start to form instruction, to decide what should we be looking at. We already believe, as I said, that some of these test results indicate a need for intervention at the secondary level to assist our children to master what they need to master.
Linda, can you refresh my memory and tell me what RTI means, please?
RTI is response to intervention.
That's what I thought, but I wasn't sure.
Right. It's what do we do for those students who are not special needs necessarily, but have some needs to address weaknesses that they have in math or literacy.
I'm still working on the alphabet soup.
I know, my son-in-law as well. He won't talk to me or my daughter because we talk in initials, so he just won't speak to us.
Well, for those that aren't necessarily connected to the high school with the junior class, the SBAC test fell on the same week as the AP exams and the SATs that were offered. So the kids had to choose what they were going to focus on. Focus on the AP test or focus on the SBAC. And having a girl who took it, my daughter who took it last year, and they didn't take it very seriously. Because they had APs the days before, they had APs the day after, and that Saturday in the middle of all of it was the SATs. So it just came at a horrible time for kids to be focused on that test. Oh,
And I want to say, it's not just the AP kids. I mean, we had other students who didn't take it seriously. I had one young man, and I just want to really, another anecdotal comment. This particular young man, in the math performance, it was related to roof struts and architecture and all kinds of things that he should have been able to do because he was the lead crew person on building the barn raising that we did out in the courtyard. So he had already done it, but he went in, sat down for 5 minutes, clicked on everything he felt he needed to click on, and left. And this is a test he could have done very, very well on. But he chose not to pay close attention to that, and that's unfortunate. I would have loved to see what he had done. On science, if you look at the next page, which I believe is page 31 in the packet, you see the CAP scores, which are the CAP of the science scores for the high school students. We are right up there pretty much with the state. If you look at Torrington High School, Torrington overall was about 2 percentage points lower than the state, but that also takes into account the students who were at Midgeon and the students who were outplaced that were not being educated at Torrington High School. So those students who were at Torrington High School are on par with the state, and that is a slight uptick in the science for that. And the last page in this packet is the CMT results. We're doing pretty well. We're moving up. I would like to, Sue, if you don't mind, if you could speak a little bit to that, because I'm not as familiar with these at this point as I would like to be.
Right. We will continue with the CMT and the CAP in this next school year as well. Last year, we had some areas where we were a little bit lower. Southwest was in the 60s, and now they're 71%, which is good. Forbes went down a little bit. They were originally in the 80s, but we're holding strong in that 80-ish range. We really are making a move toward next-gen science standards. So a lot of this test will be kind of valid, kind of not. And I hate to say that, but that's the reality. As we are changing our curriculum and as they are going to move toward changing the testing, we're in this in-between phase where we may do well on the test, we may not. I think it's more important to really look at the next-gen science standards and really make sure that we're doing minds-on, inquiry-based, project-based science that's meaningful instruction, rather than making sure that test scores are necessarily high. A lot of the next-gen science standards really focus in on this project-based learning. And it really allows the students to pull things apart, to go through that discovery process. So I'm not sure where we will be on the CMT. I know that ultimately the next step for SBAC or state testing will actually include the science. But we don't know yet from the state, so we'll keep you posted. East did an excellent job, Mrs. Ferguson, at 97%, so congratulations to them. They were up from last year.
I'll just,
Yes.
not so much a question, but I was interested in this and I spent some time looking today, especially at comparing the different elementary schools. It's hard with the middle school and high school because there's only one of each, but I definitely
yeah, I saw the same thing that you referenced concerning the schools with the lesser economically gifted students tending to, the scores tending to reflect that to some degree. But there was one that I thought was remarkable. The grade 3 at Vogel Webmar, they did very well. And they had 84% free and reduced lunch, 60% sped, 19% is ELL. So I just thought it was kind of neat because it's not necessarily always this bleak thing, you know, and whatever, I mean, lots of people are doing lots of things well, but that one especially stuck out to me as an outlier. I'd be interested to know what they're doing that's working so well.
And we will be working on that just district-wide to talk with them and to have other people go in and do some observations and to open up that discussion in terms of strategies, because duly noted, absolutely. It was a great success.
We haven't had as much time to meet as a group to really focus on this, but that's definitely on the agenda for us. We definitely want to know, and I know that Andrew wants to share, because he's already contacted us and said, let's talk.
That's good.
He's very anxious to talk about this and justifiably proud of the results.
That's good. I'm sure that, I mean, obviously the data is very limited, but it is neat to be able to glean little things here.
The next item is the forensic audit. We received a letter from the city attorney on the 24th of August requesting a series of documents. We responded on the 28th, and in our response, we did provide the original RFP. We provided the response from the vendor, and we included the contract. So all of those things were included. We did ask them, we didn't actually ask them, I said I thought that the 15th was a rather short window, given that we were opening schools and trying to really focus on the children and educating our children. The 15th was not a reasonable time frame. And they did respond to us. We got a letter today, actually, that said, okay, the 15th is not reasonable. We know that you're working really hard. We're going to get it. We understand that it's going to take more time. They did not respond favorably, in my view, to whether or not we could not re-provide all of the documents. We had suggested in the letter that the documents we already sent, perhaps we could, in the interest of time, not reassemble the same documents. And they said, no, we feel that in order to avoid confusion, it would be better if you send them all again. So we will be pulling those documents together. I am happy to say that Hugh Potter and I were invited to participate in the selection of the auditing firm. We met with the mayor and her team yesterday. We reviewed the 3 bids that they solicited for an auditing firm, and one was selected, and that has been sent back to the auditing firm to look for a cap to be added into the contract, and they have not yet signed a contract, but that's the status of the forensic audit at present.
Softball.
Dave, you're up.
Mr. Davis.
Good evening, everyone. I'll keep it short. The board asked at the last meeting that I would provide a few more details in the construction of the softball field outside the window here for the girls softball. And in your packet, I provided professional cost estimate that was phasing the project for one full phase, or if we drop it into various phases. The question was, would it cost us more if we do it all at once or if we do it in pieces? So what I did was I provided that professional cost estimate to you. If you do look at it, you'll notice that the hard costs are about $25,000, $20,000, yeah, about $24,000 more to do it in phases than it is to do it all at once. The other thing I'll bring to your attention is the large print that says hard costs. We would probably add, I am estimating probably another $15,000 to more design and engineering once we do the lighting and disturb the entire field. So I'll leave that information for questions or.
What's the bottom line figure for doing it all at once, Dave?
Bottom line figure, if we do it all at once, I came up with $320,200. That was adding another $15,000 in there for soft cost. The hard cost was $305,200. The other item that I'll share is I spoke with the AD director. He felt that we're getting late in the season now to possibly start a project like this. He was hoping if we're going to do it, we do it all at once and we start it next late spring as soon as school gets out to get it done next summer if we could do the entire project. Possibly if we could do it right after the season next summer, everything goes well, we could start growing grass again in September and they'd be able to play on it the following spring. So we would not lose a season. I would be worried if we started something this year, this late in the year, we would lose next year.
And in your analysis, it would be cheaper to do it all at once than to do it in phases?
It is cheaper to do it all at once. You know, you're looking at mobilization for these contractors to keep coming back and forth, you know, and you're disturbing the ground. It'd be like one of the examples that was brought to my attention was when you repave a road and then you go back a week later and you cut a hole in it to put a gas line in or something like that. You forgot to do it the first time, so it would be I think you'd get a better project if you did do it all at once. So, but once again, what would happen is we would have to ask the city to hold our capital that we have left over this year, which would be approximately $114,000 in the project, and then we would have to add to that project number approximately $229,000. I'll take that back, $205,000 for next year.
Dave, the old football field is irrigated, right? Got sprinklers?
Yes, it does have irrigation in it now, including part of that softball field.
Right. I don't, with trying to get grass and get a quickly and well-established field, I don't see any irrigation numbers in it.
I didn't put any irrigation numbers because I was going to leave the irrigation as it is.
Okay. It has enough?
Yes.
Any other questions?
Do we want to run any risk of putting this off with the ADA compliance issue with Title IX?
I've got no complaints, and I don't think Michael has got any as of yet. So I don't think there should be a problem. I'm hoping there won't be a problem. I couldn't answer that question. I think, right, I think if right, we're showing good faith effort here. Once again, if we do put this off, this would become a vote for you in the next budget season when I bring the capital project forward. So just to let you know, that's where this would go.
Is there any of the work that could be done in advance with the 114 we currently have? Or would that not make sense?
Well, we would go out there, I'm just trying to, we'd have to really, any of the work that would have to be done, you'd have to start digging. And, you know, I don't know if you'd want to start trenching right now. That would be the first thing I would start doing anyway, so. You don't want to put bases down for dugouts now if you're going to start trenching around them and underneath them. You're just going to, all that work, you're just going to redo it. And you don't want to put a permanent fence out there right now because you're going to be knocking that down too. So I would say no. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we are up to Mr.
We are up to board goals for 2016, 2017, revised edition. I made the mistake when I sent Michael what I thought was the set of goals we had agreed on, of sending him something which was not the goals. And so your second copy, the one you got by a separate message, what day was that, Michael?
I don't remember, I think it was Monday.
Monday?
Monday.
Right, so that's the one we should be looking at, the one that has the goals listed, had the board, and then with 5 goals. Investigate ways to make the budget process more effective and less stressful. Market the options program to parents of students who may or may not attend college. In other words, to present the options program as the program it is to serve a lot of kids, whether or not they're going to college. Investigate ways and develop strategies to increase communication among parents, teachers, administrators, and board members. Develop strategies regarding the creation of subcommittee and regular board meeting agenda so that our time together can be used more effectively and efficiently. And finally, pursue an ongoing formal relationship with our elected state legislators in order to inform them about the needs of Torrington schools, make recommendations to them about the interests of Torrington schools as they might be affected by state policy and legislation, and to hold them responsible for their votes in the state legislature by means of reports to the public. That's what we ended up with after discussing that in a couple of school improvement committee meetings. And your pleasure, Mr. Chairman, do we discuss these one by one? Do we adopt them? Do we defer adopting them until next time if people haven't had them except for the last couple of days?
We'll see how they feel. I mean, we routinely have, the number of goals has fluctuated over years. There's been 5, there's been 6, there's been 3. So having 5 goals is a fairly good number. Does anyone have any? Well, we go one by one.
Okay.
Go right down from the top. Number 1, to investigate ways to make the budget process more effective and less stressful. Does anyone not see that as a goal? I thought you'd be against that one. All right. How about the second goal? Investigate ways to develop an effective strategy to market the options program to parents of students who may or may not attend college. John, you've done a good job. There's no questions.
The only concern I have, the only concern I have about that one is I don't want to send the message that we're losing sight of our higher achieving students. There is some perception there that they are losing out for all the things that we're putting in place. My only concern.
That was not the intent of the author of that goal.
Right. No, I'm sure it wasn't. I'm just saying perception wise.
Why, who wrote that?
I did.
No, I know, I'm kidding. I get it.
In the market, in the ways to develop and market that program, we have, I believe, 3 new AP courses this year, right? In their very first year. So as much as we are adding to the options program, we are adding to the AP offerings as well. So I think it goes with the goal of marketing it. We have to market it correctly, that it's not, we're not trying to take away from one group to give to the other. We're actually trying to enhance all of them. So I think that could be covered under the way that's worded. Nice wording, though. Any other questions on the second one, or comments, or concerns? Jesse?
Would it be more concise to say, investigate ways to market the options program to parents of students who may or may not attend college?
Yeah, the way I read it is we're going to spend this year to develop and create a strategy to market it. If you take out develop and create a strategy, then our goal would be to market it. Starting, you would take away the development end of it, so we would be saying we're going to start right out marketing it. Just in wordsmithing, by no means in English.
Not necessarily. I see what you're saying, but I think it says investigate ways to market the options program. That doesn't say you're marketing the options program. You're just investigating ways to market the options program.
I'm not in love with the words. It doesn't make any difference. I think the idea is that we get the options program out there to people so they know what it is, and if it applies to them, they can take advantage of it. You know, we could argue about semantics all night.
I will never argue with you about English. Math, I'm good. English, I'm not so good. Bill, being as you were the author, how do you feel of the changing of those words?
Well, part of my intent in writing that goal is that we would develop strategies so that it wouldn't appear as we were giving a preference to one group over another. So I think if it's taken out, the goal is watered down.
Any other concerns on the wording? How do we feel about the
I'm not an English major, so I'm not.
Nor am I, sir.
I will never debate English with John.
Andrew, how do you feel about the wording?
I'm fine with it.
The way it is?
Yes.
Jim?
I'm okay with it.
Ellen? Jeremy?
Good.
Jim? What's your name? Dan. Well, you were between two J's, so it was coming out as Jan, and I didn't want to finish it. So I had to go Dan. You're good, Dan?
I am.
John, yourself?
I'm fine.
And leave it the way it is. Moving on. All right, number 3, investigate ways to develop strategies to increase communication among parents, teachers, administrators, and board members. Any, are we happy, not happy, comments, concerns? Okay. A lot of nods. Okay. Number 4, develop strategies regarding the creation of subcommittee and regular board meeting agendas so that our time together can be used more efficiently and effectively. I'm switching them up.
It's okay, it means the same thing.
Yeah, I know. Got ahead of myself.
This is also, Mr. Knights, you might want to explain if there's explanation necessary.
Well, one of my concerns and why this goal came to mind is that a lot of the agendas for these meetings and some subcommittee meetings that I've been to are very long, and maybe there's nothing that can be done about it. Maybe that has to be. So my thought was to investigate ways and to come up with strategies to see if there was a way that the agendas could be constructed so that our time would be used both more effectively and efficiently.
We actually had tried a couple of years ago to try to set the board agendas theme-based, do mostly curriculum in September and October and travel around that. And each time we tried to put that together, some type of brush fire popped up here and there that kept derailing our ability to stick to having a nice format that you would look at curriculum and need-based for the schools leading into budget, and then we always end up with a half a plate full of crises that take away from that. So it is a great idea. I mean, it's something that I was trying to do a couple of years ago. It just sort of fell apart. And I do agree with the subcommittees, because we have had subcommittees in the very recent past that were going off on tangents that were not necessarily ever even a topic discussed at a board level, but they were running in a direction, and there could have been a lot of time that was very inefficiently used, because if you have a subcommittee that looks into a topic and spends 3-4 meetings debating this topic, it comes to the board, and the other 6 members go, well, you just spent 4 months researching a topic that everybody went, no, I have no interest, and it just dies. So I agree with that. Be more, we've been trying to assign different tasks. Most of them go to Ellen and policy, but
You're right.
John has gotten his fair share lately, where it's been, to school improvement.
Yeah,
But-
thank you. Although we got rid of one to policy, as you may hear later.
Yes, okay.
Yes.
You notice another one to me?
Well,
You introduce
I just didn't want you to feel overwhelmed, so we fed it through John to use.
Thank you.
It was a setup.
Still ended up with you.
But no, I mean, to have the subcommittees really developing more of a full board philosophy than just running as independent little units. I agree with that. Number 5. That's a long one, huh? Do I have to read it?
John can explain, he wrote it.
This
This
was
was
all
John's.
me. Actually, we have said this from time immemorial. Hartford makes laws, Hartford does things that really hurt us, and yet we don't have a formal structure for dealing with it. I would love to see us put a formal structure in. And all you have to do is make it a liaison assignment. We have liaison assignments to the schools, to Ed Connection, to the sports boosters. Why not assign somebody to these elected officials? There are only 5 of them, 3 state reps and 2 state senators. And if you want to make it congenial, you could even appoint members of the same party to be liaison to members of their own party. But just to let them know, so that they don't think they're going to get away with it, so that it will be publicized. Nothing else.
The only thing I didn't like about it is just the ending part. I think we should possibly reword where we have people that's responsible for their votes in the state legislature. Kind of tough to build a relationship, and we're coming out confrontational, just saying.
Well, with some
But
of
maybe
them,
we could say,
some of them are
understanding
already-
the impact of their votes at the local level, or something, just not.
Oddly, I like that sentence the best, John.
well, because it's
I
what
mean,
we
they
really
work
need
for
to
us.
do.
It's not, you know what I mean? We're not there to kowtow.
I
It's
mean, I
work,
guess I would like
you know?
to see it more of a, not we're gonna fight about it after you vote, but more, let's discuss what your vote is gonna mean to us at a local level, so we can.
So that they'll understand what our vote will mean for them.
No, I'm saying like
You know what I
on
mean?
policies and different things that.
Well, It's been, we did have them here a few years back. It wasn't until August, I think.
Right.
And, you know, everything was too late. I mean, the cart was way out in front of the horse. I believe the intent of this is to get them here before they vote, so that we have, if you're voting on a road issue, I would think that you would talk to the Director of Public Works. If you're voting on an educational issue, I would think that you would come in and talk to the Board of Ed. If you're voting on a financial issue or a tax issue, I would think that you would, before you vote, confer with the Board of Finance. I would think that would be something you should do. So, I mean, I understand, we've asked for years for them to please come and join us and share with us what's going on at the state level before it becomes a law, so that we have an input in it. We can tell them how we feel it's going to impact us, whether it's going to be positive, negative. So,
I think they need to be hit over the head with a sledgehammer so we can get their attention to begin with. Then we can worry about patting them on the back.
I like the sledgehammer.
what sentence do you want to slide in?
We can just parentheses.
Oh, sure.
Hold them responsible, parentheses, sledgehammer. No, if that's too, I mean, obviously, the whole point would be to hold them responsible. Maybe we don't have to say it.
It's okay to not be PC. I know it's weird these days, but
Well, technically, that would be PC today. I mean, everybody's talking about legislatures, secretaries of state, and what they do and their votes and what their conversations are. And all you're doing is saying, here's your voting record. These are the issues we brought before you. This is how you voted based on the information we gave you. Did you help us? Did you hurt us? What is the impact of that vote that you have? I don't see that as wrong.
But I also think that we haven't made a due diligence effort to reach out to them to say, we're really concerned about this upcoming vote or following the trackers. You know, I think it's a mutual thing that maybe we feel they're not doing their job. They likely feel that we're not reaching out to them enough either. I think it's a two-way street, and if you want to build it, I just think you have to, if we're going to make it a board goal, then we need to follow through on it. And I think it should be a communication thing of making sure that the board also is in communication with the legislators and the reps about what our intentions are and the ramifications of the votes.
What if we, because this is for 16, 17, this is for now.
Right.
What if we set this for 16, 17 and did something in the meantime? Some reach out or something to kind of get the ball rolling, so that once the goal is in place, it doesn't just like come out of nowhere.
What if you changed to hold them responsible for their votes to either use, to review or evaluate with them their votes in the state legislature by means of report to the public?
Although technically can't evaluate them.
Wow,
Well,
yeah, so review, to review with them their votes in the state legislature.
Why is that? I'm a voter.
You are, as an individual. But as the governing body of the Board of Education, we don't have the authority to review them. That's beyond our purview. As an individual voter, you have that right.
But I don't know that we're saying we're reviewing them.
No,
We're
I
saying
said,
we're
I said,
reporting
if we- I said if we changed to hold them responsible to either put in review or evaluate their votes in the state, you know, if we change that from hold them responsible to we review with them their votes. To say we're gonna sit down with you at the end and we're gonna talk about your voting record, we're gonna look at how it went. We wanna, you
Or
know,
we could,
explanations,
or we could say, discuss with them their votes.
discuss with them, yeah.
John's rolling his eyes at me.
Discuss the impact of their vote in the state legislature.
That's all right.
I like that.
Discuss the impact.
That'll work.
That's why we keep them quiet, it's the wordsmith.
Yeah, he's gonna come back to all of our meetings.
Yeah. Any part about the mute button in the paper? Hold them responsible and to discuss the impact of their votes in the state legislature by means of reports to the public. Is that the way that will now read if we make this change?
I think they want to remove the hold them responsible part and just put in the discuss with them. Is that correct?
And I don't know if everyone else
That's what he
feels.
said.
Could you read it again, John, that last sentence?
As they might be affected by state policy and legislation, and to discuss the impact of their votes in the state legislature by means of reports to the public.
Getting a lot of nods.
Yep. Yeah, that sound okay?
Yep.
Grammatically, it suffers, but, you know, we can live with it.
For grammatic errors.
As students always used to say, well, you know what I meant. To which I would say, no, I know what you said, not what you meant. But that's, people will know what we mean.
If we have more funding, we're gonna fix that.
Okay.
If we're all right with those, we could enter into a motion to amend the agenda if we had 2/3 vote to add the approval of those under action items and have them over with, or we can bring them back next month and vote on them next month.
Well, I will move to amend the agenda to achieve our end.
I'll second.
Any discussion on amending the agenda to add these as an action item? All those in favor of adding these to? So John, Dan, we will make that, let's see, going to be E. Okay, Michael?
Yep.
That'll be E. Very good. Okay. Now I need a motion to go into executive session to discuss non-bargaining union contract.
So moved.
I would like, I need to invite in Linda Reitman and Joe Campolita.
So amended.
Okay, who was the motion? That guy? All right, motion by that guy. Second by this girl? That girl. All those in favor, or discussion, all those in favor? Aye. Yes.